hot and sour soup. I absolutely love it, but sometimes when I order it, it tastes like dishwater. And then Jeff and I went to this restaurant and it was, oh my gosh, perfect. So after some trial and error, I think I came up with a combination of ingredients so that you can make some delicious hot and sour soup at home. Welcome to the Salt and Pepper, where we cook for real life using real food and we keep it real simple. Today we're gonna make hot and sour soup in the Ninja Foodi. Now this recipe actually started out as a blender recipe, but after a couple of practice runs, wasn't able to get it as thick as I wanted. So I switched over to the Ninja Foodi. But you can make it in the blender, and I will go over the instructions for that in the written post on my website, and you can make this on the stove. We're only gonna use the sear saute function on the Ninja Foodi. So no worries there. All right, 4 cups of chicken stock. Now, if you wanted to do a vegetarian version, you'd have to make some changes, but you could do it. Obviously, you'd start off with a vegetarian stock, a vegetable stock. All right, so we're gonna go and hit the sear saute, hit the start button, let that heat up a little bit, and meanwhile, we'll add in some of the other ingredients. So I have 3 tablespoons of soy sauce. Put that in. 3 tablespoons of oyster sauce. Now, I'm not sure this is an ingredient that's normally in hot and sour soup, but I found that it really gave the depth of flavor and richness that I was looking for. So I added it in. Stir that up just a little bit. Now we're gonna add in 2 teaspoons of chili garlic sauce. This is really easy to find, so you shouldn't have any trouble whatsoever finding that. And you could use 1 or 2 teaspoons, but I like mine spicy, so I'm gonna add in 2. 2 tablespoons of white vinegar, not rice vinegar, not apple cider, just plain old white vinegar. And you could also adjust that at the end. So if you wanted it a little bit more sour, you could add some more in. All right. Now let's get in the chicken. Now it's kind of funny. I had no idea that hot and sour soup even had meat in it, believe it or not, even though I'm sure it was in the soup I've ordered, but I had no idea. Usually it's pork, but you can also use chicken, and that's what I chose to do today. So I have 8 ounces of chicken breast that I just cut into thin strips, and I've had it marinating for about 30 minutes in a 1/4 cup of mirin, which is a wine that you can find at the Asian store, and I think some liquor stores carry it, but I couldn't find any, so I had to go with the seasoning from Walmart. So that's the one I'm using, and it works just fine. So a 1/4 cup of that and 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, and that's been marinating, like I said, for about 30 minutes. We're gonna go ahead and add this chicken mixture into the soup. Just stir it around to make sure that it doesn't clump up on you. All right, perfect. Now, I have a 1/4 cup of bamboo shoots, and I'm gonna go ahead and slice those up, probably just in half. I like the strips, but I don't like them as thick as they come, so I slice them in half and add those to the soup. All right, let's give that a little stir around. We're gonna bring this up to a boil, and we want to cook the chicken. And meanwhile, let me talk about mushrooms. So there's 2 kinds of mushrooms. I think they're both pretty important for flavor and for texture. First thing I have here are shiitake mushrooms. They come dried, and I had to buy them from Amazon. So I bought this brand, and it's Vigorous Mountains, and I will definitely link to it below because I really like the packaging. It was sealed really nice, and it's a really nice quality shiitake mushroom. Then you want to rehydrate them. So I just put probably about 3/4 of a cup of plain water and a 1/4 of an ounce. So this is what a 1/4 of an ounce looks like dried, and this is the 1/4 of the ounce of the shiitake mushrooms that are rehydrated. Now I may use this liquid too at the end, so I'm not gonna throw that out right now. I'm gonna leave that here. You wanna thinly slice your mushrooms. Now, if you really wanted to make this and you couldn't find the shiitake, you could use portobello mushrooms instead, and that would be okay. But it is a different flavor. The next mushroom is the one that's really interesting. It's called wood ear mushroom. And I will show this to you in just a second. All right, so wood ear mushroom, 1/4 ounce dried is what I used, which really looks like almost nothing. So it is so different the way that they rehydrate. So you can see the difference. This is them dehydrated and this is rehydrated. So they really plump up. 1/4 ounce, and that's about 1/2 cup hydrated. Now, I've heard you can find these too at the Asian market, so hopefully you have one near you, but I don't have any near me, so I had to order them off Amazon, and I will link to that below as well in the video description. And then you just want to cut them into thin strips and put them in the soup. I thought it was seaweed in the hot and sour soup that I was eating. It has a texture sort of like that, so they're a little on the rubbery side, but it really does add a great texture to the hot and sour soup. So I hope you can find them and put them in there. All right, the next ingredient that may be difficult to find, but I was able to order it on Amazon, dried daylily flowers. And they look like this when you get them, so they're all dry. And this is 1/4 ounce as well, and reconstituted. It's probably about 1/2 cup or so, maybe a little less than that. And I like to cut these in half. Now, of all the ingredients, these are probably the ones you could really skip, but it is traditional in a hot and sour soup. So I'll just cut them into 1/3 or 4ths so that they're little bite-sized pieces and throw those in. And I have 4 ounces of extra firm tofu that I've just cut into strips. I'm gonna add this a little bit later. I do wanna add it to the soup so it can sort of absorb the flavor, but I don't add it at the very beginning because it can break up as you stir. All right, so the soup has come to a boil. It looks and smells really, really good. And now we're gonna go ahead and add in our tofu strips. Give that a gentle stir around. Looks like our chicken is nicely cooked. So we are almost done with our soup. That is how fast this is, okay? Super fast to make. It does take about an hour or so to reconstitute the dried mushrooms and the daylily flowers. So now is a good time to taste the soup for seasonings because you may want yours a little spicier. You might want yours a little bit saltier. You might want yours a little bit more sour, and you would need to add a little more vinegar for that. So let's go ahead and take some out and give it a little taste. Oh, wow. I might add a little more vinegar, but it's really good. Ooh, dilemmas. Maybe 1 more tablespoon. It's so good, but I think it could be just a touch more sour for my liking. So I'm gonna grab a tablespoon of white vinegar. We're gonna add that in, and then we're gonna finish up our soup by adding in some egg and a little bit of cornstarch so that we can thicken it. All right, let's see if that does the trick. So let's go ahead and thicken our soup. You want the soup, well, you can have it as thick or as thin as you like, but usually it is about the thickness so that it would coat the back of your spoon. So what I like to do is take 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, and I'm gonna dump it right into this container so I have a little room for mixing. And then about a 1/4 cup or so of the shiitake water. Let's get a spoon and mix that up. You want to make a slurry. Then I only add half of it at a time. Make sure you get all the clumps out before you pour this in, because if not, it will clump in your soup. All right, that looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and add in half of this. Give it a stir. Bring it back up to a low boil. It's definitely thicker, but I think it could be even a little thicker, so I'm going to add in the rest. That is totally up to you. All right, that looks great to me. Perfect. You could even make it thicker if you wanted. No problems there at all. All right, let's finish this up. Now, you want this soup to be boiling as you add in the eggs, and you want to do this very slowly. This is one large egg that I just whipped up pretty well. And with another spoon, as you're pouring in the egg mixture, you're going to stir in a circular motion. And I do this pretty slowly. We're going to get these beautiful egg ribbons. Looking perfect. Gorgeous. Perfect, and we are all done. We just need to put it into a bowl, and we're gonna garnish it with a little bit of sesame oil and a little bit of chopped up green onions. Or chives would be fine. All right, so let's go ahead and ladle some out into our bowl. Oh my gosh, it looks so good. Wow. And we're going to put a few of these green onions on there. You could stir them into the soup at this point too, but I usually just put the garnish on after the fact when it's in the bowl. And then I'm just going to drizzle just a little bit of toasted sesame oil on top. So, oh gosh, maybe a quarter of a teaspoon, if that. And let's go ahead and stir that in. Oh, it looks beautiful. All right. Let's try the chicken. Now, the chicken should be nice and tender and perfectly cooked. Let's give that a taste. Wow. Let's give the broth a taste. Now, I think I could use even a little more of the sour. It is so good. So good. All right, a wood ear mushroom and a piece of tofu. Wow. This is so delicious and so easy to make. It's unreal. Now, you could, of course, add in some more vinegar, add in some more spice, which I might do because I think it could use a little kick of hot and a little kick of sour, but that is totally up to you. So use this as a basic recipe and then add in whatever else you want, all the seasonings. You could add in white pepper. That would give it a nice flavor. You know what? Let's try that right now. Pinch of white pepper, and I'm going to add a pinch of salt just to my bowl. I think it's really well seasoned, but I like it a little bit spicier, so let's see how that white pepper goes. This is so gorgeous. For me personally, I would add in more of the chili garlic to get the spice. I don't know that the white pepper's really doing it for me. I thought it might add another layer of flavor, another little dimension of flavor, but it really isn't. So I would put in more spice. But other than that, it is absolutely fantastic. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm really not a fan of the white pepper, so I would advise stay away from that. Add in more of the chili garlic for sure. All right, guys, that's it. Hot and sour soup done in the Ninja Foodi, or you can do it on the stove, and you can do it in the blender. It just wasn't the best way to make it. Took a little bit longer in the blender, believe it or not. So I always try to pick the appliance that's gonna work best for the recipe, and in this case, it is definitely the Ninja Foodi pressure cooker and air crisper. All right, spice it up. Make it less spicy, make it more sour, make it yours and make it delicious.